Howdy folks, welcome to Bullish on Farming. Today's October 28th and just checking in on the herd. Moved them into a fresh paddock this morning, from there to here. And I shot a video, but the wind was so crazy that the audio, it wasn't even worth it to post. So here we are revisiting, and it's been a while since we've shared anything on our cows. Took a little bit of a hiatus midsummer, just going with the flow, you know, living life. But we're back, and this paddock here has gotten about 90 days rest. I think they were off it before June was over. So that gives us, let's just say July, August, September, October. Here we are at the end. You know, it's more like 115 days maybe. And you can see it's quite mature. Got a bunch of stuff grown out. You know, we lightly grazed this in June. We didn't do a total graze. As per usual, you know, what we usually do is we take the top half of the plant and move on. And because we really wanted to extend our grazing season up until the new year, that was the goal. And it looks like we're going to hit it, which is awesome. We decided to leave our fields. I think I took about 1/3 from grazing, you know, 1/3 of impact, and the rest actually just left standing. So it was a very light pass, but typical of our first pass of fields. And here we are now. And you know, the weeds came up. Some warm season grasses have matured, gone to seed long time ago, and we got a mix of brown and green. But it's beautiful for an all-season pasture, which is how we're looking at our pastures now. We're not just looking at them, you know, May through November. We're looking for our pastures to have full expression. And by that, I mean, you know, there's going to be groups of plants that have gone to maturity and express their full life cycle. And I think that there's a lot of benefits that offers to the soil, because the plant is feeding the soil all throughout its growth process. And then of course, when it matures and its time passes, a lot gets deposited into the soil. And sure, you have some stuff left standing, but doing more of a total graze type of approach now, that's how we counterbalance that. So we can take a look at the previous paddock to see what I mean. You know, there's going to be some of these dry weeds that have taken a presence in these fields. And you know, we're only 12 months on this farm. So I've only seen one full growth cycle of these pastures up until this point. And that's why it was super important for us to have the amount of rest that we did. Because in my experience, if you want to make a big difference in year one, when you're talking about regenerative grazing management, you need extended rest periods. And so this farm was fallow for 5 to 7 years, and it was hayed before that, and it didn't really have that much animal presence on it. Most of the fields were used for hay, and it was an old goat dairy farm, and so they would feed the goats in the barn. But we feed our animals out on the land, so we're giving these fields a treatment that they perhaps haven't gotten in quite some time. Now, there was a guy who custom grazed cows here last year before we moved in, and he did good work. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's all very new. So, October leading into November can be quite wet as well. It hasn't been, but it can be, and it probably will get there. And so when you have the full expression of plants like this, you know, you have a huge buffer between you and the soil, and everything's been allowed to grow dense. So not only do you have a cushion between the cow's hoof and the soil, but you also have housing for life forms that live within the plantation and the layers that it creates. And it's able to do that when it's protected, so that things like, you know, wind and heat and a substantial amount of rain don't kill off those life forms. When you have the elements directly onto soil, it's not great news in the long run. So that's why we always want to focus on keeping our pastures covered so we can feed both our animals and the land. You know, some people might say this field, it's nothing special. Well, what's special about it is that it's right now giving us 3 days of feed per paddock. And all that green undergrowth is very vegetative. So although the eye sees a lot of non-vegetative feed, it's balanced with vegetative green undergrowth. Okay? And remember, we're the end of October here. So some people aren't even grazing now. So if you want things to look manicured, well, manicured isn't the right way to say it, but green and lush and 8 to 12 inches high, you know, that's what things look like in the spring. We're in the fall and we're looking to graze through fall. So we're happy with where we're at. And you could have seen the type of impact we've done over there. Okay, not much left standing. And so it's ready to totally reset next year with the spring flush. And it's only the recently grazed fields, you know, in October and late September, that would look like this. The back of our farm is about 1 foot high and it's ripe green. And that's simply because, you know, those fields have been resting since August, September. And we got a field over there, past that tree line. That's our stockpiled field that we're going to after this. And that's where we plan to graze right up until New Year. And even past it, if the amount of grazing acres there allows us. Of course, we'll have bales ready to supplement if adverse conditions don't make it easy for the cows to graze. But I find that when you have your cows grazing into winter, you have their nose to the ground, foraging their own feed heading into the winter season, they usually graze right through the snow and aren't too picky. Once you take them off pasture, have them eating bales in an area that doesn't have anything growing, and then it starts snowing, and then, you know, you want to try putting them out to pasture to see if they'll graze through the snow. They may not figure it out that easy. And I'm talking if you have like thick snow, packing snow, and enough that it, you know, the cow might not click in, especially if you've always just bale fed them before the snow fell year after year. They're instinctually not going to react to their environment in the same way because they've been unplugged from the rhythm of foraging in a natural setting and having to work for the food the way they did as they evolved over millennia. And you could take a look at the condition of our cattle, folks. They're not hurting. Take a look at this steer. You know, if anyone wants to say, is there enough nutrition in these fields for these cows at this time of year? Well, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, the conditioning on our cattle is great. You know, a lot of our moms are carrying 6-month-old calves. They're looking good. And that's a longhorn right there. And I've found that these longhorns, since I got them, have filled right out. And we're happy about it because, you know, they're a different build than our Herefords and our Angus. But when I was first getting longhorns, I was wondering, are they going to be a good beef animal? Of course, they're much leaner and it's a totally different beef animal. And they're a small portion of our herd. So we didn't fully commit. But I didn't ban that guy there, and I'm thinking of keeping him as a bull. You know, as soon as he was calved out, he was stocky. He had a barrel on him. Of course, that steer has to push him away when I want to talk about him. But he's a great looking longhorn. More of a buff one that I'd love to utilize and cross with our Angus and Hereford genes. You know, take a look at that guy right there. That's a good looking calf. A little bit more leggy than the others, but they're smaller frame animals to begin with. So that's what we were going after with the low line, which has been awesome, to be honest. There's a low line cross calf right there. And they're smaller than the Angus calves I've run in the past, but finishing on grass, I trust they're gonna be great. So, you know, we're trying things. We're working with the 100% grass-fed model. And at the end of the day, you know, the beef is the product that's gonna support the farm when you're raising cows. But for us, it's holistic in the sense that we want animals that do well in our program. We want to be very mindful of setting up our animals for success. So we're not only going to think like a chef, although that is helpful, but we also don't supply restaurants. That's not the main pillar of our business model. We're direct to consumer. We feed families, you know, and we're not against supplying for restaurants, but when you're raising organic 100% grass-fed beef, they're not always in the market to pay for it. And that's all right, because people who seek this food are happy to exchange the value that it's worth. And we don't even have our beef prices locked down, but you know, our pork and the products we offer are all organic, pasture raised pricing. And it all just goes along with how we raise our animals too. So organic fields are a no-brainer. I'm not going to spray anything. And these cattle are amazing at converting vegetation into beef as they evolved over millennia. So that's what I'm going to work with, that design. And I'm not going to buy grain to put into them because they don't need it. And, you know, we feel good about what we're doing with these cows and we see them succeeding. So it's an absolute pleasure. Yep, these cows ain't hurting. This is a beautiful field in my eyes. But at the end of the day, you know, you do what works for you. So anyways, folks, I'd like to say thanks for stopping by and God bless you all. See you on the next one.